Hi, everybody. Today's Monday, March 23rd, 2026, and our dear friend, our brother, Larry Johnson, is here with us.
Yeah, the audience doesn't know I was giving you a hard time about that shirt. No, it was a very, very strong performance on your part today.
I'm trying to be a good student, View.
Oh yeah, well, I appreciate that. Yeah, you're my adopted Brazilian Iranian son.
Larry, let's start with what Donald Trump announced moments ago, or a couple hours ago. And he, after announcing the ultimatum for 48 hours, and we're going to attack Iranian power grid, he came out and said Iranians are negotiating with us behind the scene. And here is what Donald Trump said. And we had the response from the Iranian foreign ministry. He said, that's not the case. Right. We haven't talked with them at all. Here is what Donald Trump said.
Iran's foreign ministry says you're not telling the truth when it comes to productive conversations to end the war.
Well, they're going to have to get themselves better public relations people. We have had very, very strong talks. We'll see where they lead. We have major points of agreement. I would say almost all points of agreement. Perhaps that hasn't been conveyed. The communication, as you know, has been blown to pieces. They're unable to talk to each other. But we've had very strong talks. Mr. Witkoff and Mr. Kushner had them. They went, I would say, perfectly. I would say that if they carry through with that, it'll end that problem, that conflict. And I think it'll end it very, very substantially. We have very much in mind our partners in the Middle East. We've had great relationships with a lot of them, as you know. A lot of them were surprisingly hit. And I was surprised to see it, and so was everyone else. But we have, they're very much in mind in the discussions. So the discussions took place yesterday. They went into yesterday evening. They want very much to make a deal. We'd like to make a deal too.
This is just amazing. This guy is amazing. You're understanding your take, Larry.
He's the ultimate, there's a saying in the Navy, you can't polish shit. Okay? You can like on brass, you can rub it and you get it shiny. You can take shit and it ain't getting shiny. It's just getting spread around. It stinks and it's messy. That's what Trump is doing. All Trump is doing is manipulating the stock market and the oil market. That's all. He's trying to keep the prices down. He's buying time until the Marines arrive. They're supposed the 31st MEU will get there on Friday, maybe Saturday. The 11th MEU, which comes out of Camp Pendleton, out of California, San Diego, they'll get there probably somewhere around April 7th. So they got about a 19-day voyage. So he's just he has no intention of a peaceful settlement with Iran, not at all. And the Iranians understand that. They're not fools. The fools are the American people who are sitting there buying this nonsense from him. But the fact that they've had good conversations, Iran's made it very clear what it wants. Now, one of the things I said was that Iran's going to insist sanctions be lifted. Well, guess what? Trump has lifted sanctions. I'm not sure all of them are off, but the major sanctions that were implemented, a whole list of them, he apparently lifted those. So that's a step in the right direction. But getting U.S. military out of the Persian Gulf, that's the next requirement. What's happening is there's been a major, you go look at the flow of aircraft, C-17s, dozens of them have been flying. So the air traffic going in, probably bringing, resupplies, number one, could be bringing some troops, but these are not, they're not flying in to withdraw personnel, just the opposite. So, Trump's a liar. Sorry to disappoint somebody out there that thought you could rely upon what he says. And we'll see what the stock market initially opened up about 1,000 1,000 points. And let's see if where it's headed. Yeah, it's still at 890. So, oh man, hey, victories and peace at hand. Nope. This is, the United States is going to continue to attack Iran, and Iran's going to continue to hit U.S. bases and the Israelis. Iran at least has a strategy that they're following, and they've got a clear plan. But Strait of Hormuz is closed unless you're willing to, pay for your cargo in yuan. The Chinese are going to come out of this quite nicely. But this means countries like Japan, South Korea, Australia, Philippines, they're going to have to be making some hard decisions this week about, are they going to continue to use the petrodollar, or are they going to embrace the Chinese currency?
Yeah. Larry, you mentioned that they're sending a lot of, weapons or personnel or fighters to the region. What is the plan on the part of Donald Trump?
Well, right now, the 82nd Airborne has been activated. I don't know where they are located. Right, they're based at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. There have been word that they were being airlifted out over the weekend. For what the destination is, I don't know. But they're going to be in theater somewhere. I don't know if they're at Incirlik in Turkey or at Mawafaq base in Jordan, but they're moving forward. I'm not sure what they're intending to use them for. God hope that they're not talking about trying to do an airdrop onto Karg Island, because that'll be a massacre for the U.S. troops. But then you've got the Marine Expeditionary Unit, the 31st, which is based in Okinawa. So from Okinawa, here's an odd fact. If you got the Marines at Okinawa and then the Marines in California, so Okinawa takes a little over 2 weeks to get to the southern coast of Iran in the Arabian Sea. From California, the most direct route, believe it or not, is to go east. In fact, go down from California through the Panama Canal, cross the Atlantic, through the Med, down through the Suez Canal, down through the Red Sea. That's the fastest way. But I would assume that the planners realize that's incredibly dangerous, particularly given the attitude and statements by the Houthis that they're now going to close the Red Sea to maritime traffic. So they'll if they have to sail west, which will add a couple of days to the journey. So they're not going to be on scene for at least another 2 weeks. So Trump claiming that, oh yeah, we're having great talks. He's just trying to buy time to get the troops in there, because he has no intention of having a peace agreement with Iran.
Larry, I think the Karg Island is so. There would be some other target. I think that they're not going to go to the Karg Island. They're going to go somewhere else, because Karg Island is far away from the Strait of Hormuz, and there is no point of being there. It's a flat area. They can get hit without having any sort of air defense system, anything that protect them. That's the problem with Karg Island. And so what are the alternatives for the United States?
Well, there are no good alternatives. So you got to define, what is the mission? Okay, the mission at Karg Island would be pretty straightforward, that you want to interdict Iran's export of oil. Except the United States lifted the sanctions on Iranian oil for the simple reason that we need that Iranian oil on the market in order to try to stabilize the prices, because the price are going up, not down. It's up here in my neck of the woods. It's been up $1.10 since February 28th. Judge Napolitano was talking to him earlier. It's up at like $1.25, $1.25 up there. So Americans they're getting pissed off, because it's now hurting them in the pocketbook. So if that's the mission, okay, that would make sense to try to get control of the oil there. But then you're just working you're then cutting off the flow of oil. Or if you take it and then say, okay, we're now going to ramp up production from Iran, not going to happen. Iran just they'll turn it off on. So they have a way to destroy. They'll destroy their own oil field before they let the United States control it. But even if Marines or 82nd Airborne are on that Karg Island, they are sitting ducks. They don't have an air defense system to protect them against the drones and the missiles that Iran would be sending in, repeatedly. So the other possible mission is to seize what's the name of the island? Is it Qasem? One of the islands there in the Strait of Hormuz. It's near the shore. It's a QUASEMH or something like that. Well, again, how are you going to get the Marines there? If these ships that are carrying the Marines and then putting them out amphibiously, they're going to be within 10 miles of the Iranian shore, and Iran will shoot them out of the water. So I saw another analyst suggesting, I don't know what the real intent is to land the Marines down around Chabahar, and that they can get on land there. For what reason? That's not going to open the Strait of Hormuz. That'll just create a target where the Marines will be facing drone attacks, missile attacks, and they occupy a pretty isolated region of Iran. Chabahar will be important in the north-south corridor once that's fully up and running. But as far as it's not a chokehold on Iran, it's anything but. So the missions on paper just make no sense, because what the United States needs is increased flow of oil out of the Persian Gulf and complete freedom of movement of maritime traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. Well, they're not getting that. And despite all the threats and the bravado coming out of the United Arab Emirates, oh, yeah, we're going to go to war with Iran. With what? I mean, come on. They remind me of just a fat, out of shape pimp. A guy that runs prostitutes. That's the United Arab Emirate. They are. They've created a Disneyland of sorts, where they got oil, they got gas that's exported, but they build up this mythical. I call it a mythical city, with Dubai, where you got all these wealthy people flocking. You got all these indentured servants out of the Philippines and Thailand and Indonesia that are there working to basically bow and scrape before all the white people. Now some say, but they make more money than they would if they stayed home, so they're willing to put up with these conditions. But it's just, the trade at Ali. There's one thing United Arab Emirates has is this free trade port called Jebel Ali, and it's either the largest in the world or the second largest. There's no trade going on there, so all the economic activity that was consolidated in that area, it's dead. Tourism, dead. Construction, well, there will be a lot of construction when they have to rebuild some of the stuff that's been blown up. But right now, the construction, the investments on that, the money's frozen. The financial services, those companies are pulling out. They said, okay, we're not staying here. It's too dangerous. So that's between the loss of oil or and petroleum products being exported by Qatar and that service industry, that's 83% of their economy. You know, how long can you lose 83% of your income and stay alive? It's not like they got ample savings. So the political situation with these Arab dictators, because that's what they are, whether we're talking United Arab Emirates or Qatar or Kuwait or Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, they're in trouble. And until the only thing that would save them is if the Strait of Hormuz was somehow magically opened and there was free movement of commerce. Well, that's not going to happen anymore. Iran's made it clear. You know what? We're gonna set up like a toll gate. If you want to come in, great. You're going to pay a fee for access. You know, Iran's going to recover money from what it's it suffered losses as a result of this war. This is one way to obtain reparations indirectly.
Larry, one of the things that yesterday and even today, I talked with some informed people about the network of Iranian, power and gas. They have a very complicated, somehow advanced network of gas and electricity. That's why somehow it's impossible to destroy it if you go after that. This is the difficulty that Donald Trump is going to face if he goes in that direction. But on the other hand, when it comes to the Arab states in the Persian Gulf or Israel, that is totally vulnerable.
No, I mean, it is up to this point, Iran has avoided taking out those power centers. Again, I think it's more intent upon weakening the military strength of those countries as well as their ability to support military operations. But Iran made it clear, hey, if you hit us on our power, if you go after, if they, like, for example, if they go after Bushehr again or Isfahan, then the gloves will come off further. I mean, the gloves are already sort of off. They're they're just systematically hitting targets in Iran, in Israel, and throughout the Persian Gulf. And supposedly we've destroyed. If you listen to Scott Bessent, we've destroyed Iran's missile capability. Well, I haven't done a very good job of it because they keep firing away at least three different waves per day, 3 to 4 waves per day. And that's been going on now for, 24 days into this?
Yeah. Here is, Larry, what Scott Bessent said about how they're trying to manage the Strait of Hormuz.
U.S. helping to fund a country that it's currently at war with, Mr. Secretary.
Again, Kristen, why don't we have good facts here? That Iranian oil was always going to be sold to the Chinese. It was going to be sold at a discount. So which is better, Kristen? Which is better? If oil prices spiked to $150 and they were getting 70% of that, or oil prices below 100, it's better to have them where they are now. And to be clear, we had always planned for this contingency. About 140 million barrels are out on the water. In essence, we are jujitsuing the Iranians. We're using their own oil against them. We have a much better line of sight, to be clear, at Treasury when this oil goes to. If it goes to Indonesia, if it goes to Japan, if it goes to Korea, we have a much better line of sight and are able to block accounts that the oil goes into. When it goes into China, it completely gets recycled. So to be clear, that 14 billion number is grossly overstated.
It's so
oh my God, we got Mr. Miyagi. Wax on, wax off. I jujitsu master. I throw you now. God almighty. I mean, Bessent's a joke. He lies. Maybe that's why Trump hired him, because he's a good liar. Well, actually, he's not even a good liar. You know, they can come up with any rationalization or justification they want. So basically, his argument is this: we're making China pay more for oil, which China can afford, and we're putting all that money in the pocket of Iran, who we're trying to defeat. Oh, brilliant. Wax on, wax off, you know. God, this is, you know, the Karate Kid for stupid people. That's what this is.
Larry, there is an article in Bloomberg saying that these sort of yes sir in the Trump administration has made this administration incompetent. And that's why the administration is not working the way it should. And this is growing to be one of the most important mistakes, one of the most devastating mistakes on the part of the president of the United States. It seems from the reports we've learned, the head of Mossad was leading the show, was providing information that Iran going to be over in few days and let's attack and go with that plan. And Donald Trump was somehow, and the whole administration, they convinced the Trump administration. Larry, the war, the war against Iran is a huge miscalculation on the part of the intelligence. Who's responsible for that?
Responsible? You mean you got some notion that there's some accountability, that people come back and say, hey, you said this, therefore you're getting punished? Nah, there's no accountability. I've read a number, there are a variety of theories out there circulating about that, this is part of some elaborate plan by the United States, 5Ds, 10D chess. They're thinking so many moves ahead, and they're going to isolate China. And all I can do is discuss what I'm hearing from friends in the military who are involved with different parts of this operation. And there definitely is not, a lot of detailed planning and thinking that's gone into this. Much of it is also now being, they're scrambling, trying to figure out how to put out they set the house on fire. Now they're going to figure out, hey, maybe we got to get some water or some fire extinguisher. It's taken on a life of its own. I do not believe that this is part of, that Trump's plan was to say, okay, let's get the Strait of Hormuz closed. Let's break the countries of Asia that are our allies, because the ones who are getting hurt most by the shut off of the oil, the shut off of the liquid natural gas, and the shut off of the fertilizer are countries that were normally considered allies, strong allies of the United States: Japan, South Korea, Philippines. They're the ones really taking it in the shorts now. But, it's hurting Cambodia, Bangladesh, Vietnam, the Asian countries. Think of this as a plague. The plague has infected them first. The infection is going to spread around the world. It hasn't hit Europe yet full force, hasn't hit the United States full force. Now, they're looking at it and said, oh, yeah, but this is probably a brilliant move. That's why Trump got control of Venezuela, so he'd have access to all that oil. The oil's in the goddamn ground. You can't get it out. It's not like the infrastructure in Venezuela for pumping the oil out is broken. They can get out a little bit, but not the volume that they need to replace what has been lost out of the Persian Gulf. And every day that goes by, there is no viable solution on the horizon. And yet the traders on Wall Street, the people running the Western oil markets, they've deluded themselves. They've lied to themselves. They're listening to Trump. They think, oh, this is going to turn around. Things are looking up. There are great talks. There are no talks. Iran's not going to negotiate. Iran wants a victory now, and they're partially there. So for right now, the sanctions are lifted, but we're going to see if that includes if the United States starts attacking these oil tankers, which I don't think they will, because if they do that, then they're going to further exacerbate the oil shortage that's already affecting the world and put more money in the pockets of Russia. So Russia's doing fine out of this, and they Western analysts grossly exaggerate China's dependence on oil, liquid natural gas coming out of the Persian Gulf. It is not a it's like the interruption of that has a minor effect on the Chinese economy, not a major effect. The effect on the Chinese economy will come as the global economy, we're in recession now. Nobody will say that. Oh, this could cause recession. No, we're in recession. You just don't have the figures in front of you to say, oh yeah, that is pretty bad. The question is, how far will we fall economically globally to the point that it would be a genuine depression? I have to go back and look up what the economic definition of a depression is. But you're going to look at a significant contraction in global economic activity. Apart from that, the impact with fertilizer. So the existing fertilizer that's out there, the price of that is soaring. And so you say, well, so what? Well, like if you're going to need that fertilizer to plant corn, but in corn right now is, let's say that it's $100 a bushel. I'm just pulling a number out of the air. If your cost of manufacturing that corn, of growing that corn, your production costs have now doubled, at least with respect to fertilizer. Well, not just fertilizer. So the price of the fertilizers doubled. The price of diesel here in the United States is up at least $2 a gallon since February 28th. So all of a sudden you've got increased fuel costs, increased fertilizer costs, and then you're going to have to sell that corn for a higher price. And the good news is people will be hungry, so they'll need to pay the higher price. But it may not turn out to be economically viable for farmers. So, I mean, this has cascading effects that we're not even haven't worked their way through the system at all. And so even if it's stopped today, and it's not going to stop today, it's not going to stop in a week. I think, I seriously believe this will go on a minimum of 2 to 3 months, and maybe longer, until the economic pain is such that the United States is going to be forced to say, okay, enough. We'll stop. What do we need to do to get the economy back up and running? And you know what? By then, it may be too late for places like Dubai and Doha and Qatar. Those cities have been dependent on the flow of outside capital, as well as the flow of goods in and out. If they're not getting those goods, food is going to become a major issue. I don't know what kind of food reserves they have, but I guarantee you, whatever meat and poultry, those are being imported from other countries. They're not getting that now. So, they're going to, Doha and in the United Arab Emirates and Qatar, they're going to be running out of food maybe in another month as this continues. So Iran's negotiating leverage in this is not only strong, it's going to increase.
Larry, Pete Hegseth shared a video of an officer showing that we are prepared to crush the enemy. We are all, the morale is high and everything is prepared to go. And the video somehow shows that it was an old video shared by the guy who was talking in that video. He's retired right now.
Yeah, 5 years ago, he left the Marine Corps.
Yeah, it's amazing. On the other hand, Larry, we've seen HuffPost HuffPost reported that the U.S. troops are increasingly uneasy about Donald Trump's Iran strategy as the conflict enters its
Wait. What was that word you used? Strategy?
Trump's strategy.
Good Lord, my man. What are you talking about? There ain't no strategy. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, the article mentions that they don't want to die for Israel. That's the main point. And the interviews were with active duty personnel together with reservists. They're all pointing out, that the stress is going high, the morale is low, and they have doubts about the mission. What is the objective? Because they don't have a clear understanding of what Donald Trump is doing. This is the reality that Pete Hegseth doesn't want anybody to learn, to know. And who's going to represent these people in these days? I don't see the head of Pentagon going in that direction.
As the war in Vietnam grew unpopular, and among the troops who were there, they had this phenomena called fragging, where the troops would kill their own leaders, who were, the ones who were gung-ho at putting them into harm's way. We may have actually seen a variant of that with the Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier, when it supposedly the laundry room caught on fire, and it took them 30 hours to put it out. Our friend Andrei Martyanov, he did a great video reminding people of what took place on the aircraft carrier, the Forrestal, in I think it was 1967. And reportedly, John McCain was a pilot who accidentally fired a missile off, and it hit the deck, and it set the Forrestal on fire. And there were explosions and everything. But the crew put that out in 19 hours. And Andre was just saying, there's something about this story that just doesn't add up, that it'd take you 30 hours to put out a laundry fire. And so we're not getting the full story. This is much bigger, much worse than anybody can imagine. And now they're saying the aircraft carrier is going to be out of commission for 14 months. So there may be some serious morale problems. I know one of people that I've talked to are just saying they're just trying to tough it out. Hope we get to the end. It is particularly people don't understand that they got a variety of what are called crisis action teams. They set up an operations center, so those are staffed 24/7. They don't turn off. There's no days off. So you go in. The shifts normally would be like 6 a.m. to 6 p.m, or 7 a.m, 7. But you go in, you're 12 hours on, and it's not just 12 hours, because let's say your shift ends at 7, but the new shift starts at 7. So you have what's called a turnover brief. So at that point, they brief what happened in the last 12 hours and outline what's going to be doing in the next 12 hours. So by the time that briefing's done, it usually takes, anywhere from 15 minutes to a half hour. So you get off. So instead, of getting off right at 7, you get off at 7:30, and then, you drive, you commute home, and they get real tired and grumpy. Tempers start flaring. So I've been involved with exercises that went on for, 7-8 days on that kind of schedule. And, it does stress people out. So across the board, I think there's a real morale issue here. And because the question comes, what's the objective? What are we trying to do?
Yeah. Larry, in the last 3 days, we've seen, a F-35, F-16, F-15 were hit by Iranian air defense system. And many of us would wonder if they are all destroyed, as Donald Trump Donald Trump tries to put out. So how Iran is capable of doing this? I don't know if you saw this animation, this channel that produces animation. It seems that it comes from Iran. The Iranians are doing this and putting out some sort of information about how they shoot this. They're talking about different missiles, air defense system. Here is one of these animations talking about hitting how the Iranian air defense system hit the F-35.
2026. I struck an F-35 for the first time in history. I am Majid, an Iranian short-range air defense system that utilizes infrared heat-seeking guidance. I do not use radar. I emit no signal. 2:50 a.m., Central Iran. My infrared eye scanned the sky, silently. No radar emission. Then I found my target. I locked, I launched, and I hit. It took me 3 seconds to bypass the F-35 threat detection system. The USA spent approximately $400 billion over 30 years on the F-35's development. But that was engineered for radar, not for heat. One side spent $400 billion. The other side built a passive heat sensor on a truck, and physics did the rest. Over 20 countries fly the F-35. Every one of them is reviewing this footage. They now have the blueprint.
Yeah, it's a war tune.
Yeah,
it's a war tune. What is your understanding of this video? It seems that they have some sort of information from inside Iran. That's why they're producing to show.
Yeah, no, they're correct about the infrared. Now, the missile did not hit the plane directly. Once the pilot realized that there was an inbound missile, they eject these basically flares so that burn at a higher rate, that create an even bigger heat signature. And the missile impacted one of those, but it was still close enough to the plane, produced shrapnel that damaged the plane. And the pilot he was able to get out of Iranian airspace because my understanding was he was pretty deep, and he was like over the middle of Iran when that happened. And he was able to get out and crash land somewhere. Plane's no longer, the plane is destroyed. It's done. But the Iranian air defense system, there's still parts of it active. They still have been unable to defeat these inbound, have a system capable of defeating the missiles, the Tomahawks and whatever, and the JASSMs. I wonder if at some point the Russians and Chinese are going to step in and try to upgrade that system and deploy their own personnel to try to help Iran fend off the West. This is escalating, despite Trump's claims earlier today that we're making great progress. We got agreement on everything, but like one or two things. It's like, good God. I mean, he's lying. It's not true. And, so we'll see a whipsaw effect. The markets do well today until it's going to become clear that there is no agreement and Iran is not messing around. And, the price of oil overseas will continue to go up. We're gaslighting the American public right now. No, it's not bad. This will be over in a day or two. No, it's not. There's no end in sight.
It seems that, Larry, that what Russia learned in Ukraine together with what Iran is learning right now, it's going to be hugely, influential on the future air defense system that all these countries will design, Russia, China, and Iran, because it would be an integrated air defense system. They're bringing different parts from Russia, Iran, from China all together to have a comprehensive air defense system. Mm-hmm. Is that going to be the result of this war?
Well, yeah, I mean, the air defense system, let's take the Patriot and the THAAD. They were premised on an environment assuming that you had like one, maybe two missiles coming in, not hundreds. And so the systems get overwhelmed, and the cost of those specific missiles are prohibitive in terms of mass production. When, let's say that you've got a ballistic missile, or let's just go with a geranium drone, and you're trying to shoot that down. If that geranium drone costs $50,000, $100,000, and you're using a $6 million, $6 million missiles to bring it down, so $12 million spent to take out a $50,000 threat. The economics on that don't work. And THAAD, the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense Missile, that's even more expensive. That's $12 to $13 million a piece. So, there's got to be a rethinking, because right now what they've got, Israel says it's multi-layered system. Layer 1 is the Iron Dome, and that was designed more for subsonic rockets. And then David's Sling is the next layer, and it goes up to another altitude. And then on top of that is the Patriot. And on top of that is the THAAD. Well, that system is basically now broken. It's depleted. We saw that in Dimona the other night. In fact, you could see there was still some air defense that was shot up, and you see it come up, and the other missile just boom goes down and impacts the ground. The air defense just completely bypassed whatever system was being fired at it. So I think the Russians and Chinese, now would be a time to start testing. They got you got another real combat environment. Bring in your system, see what you can test. Russia's got a pretty good system between the S-400 and the S-500. They've been pretty effective in shooting down most drones and missiles. Not all. There's no such thing as perfect in this world, but they've certainly been able to, defeat the significant attacks of drones. Israel cannot, and the United States cannot. And whenever you hear them say, "Oh yeah, we shot down 90%," nonsense. They're lying.
But the learning process is so important, Larry. I think, how they learn how to hit the targets, the missiles, airplanes. And it's a university for those people who are studying this sort of. And I would assume that Russia is there, China is there, everybody's there to understand what's going on.
Yeah, no, you get real-time intelligence based upon what's actually happening in combat. Again, Iran, whatever air defense system they had, has proven inadequate to preventing strikes with these missiles. A lot of the strikes have been carried out. They are standoff, so that they're being launched from outside Iran's border or barely inside Iran's border. But they're also the conventional attack on Iran. Oh, we're taking out their airfields. Well, Iran doesn't have a big air force, nor does it rely on its air force to project military power. Oh, we've blown up their navy. Again, Iran was not a blue water navy. They're not out extending their power via the navy. It's for defense, and so that's why you got the submarines and the maritime drones, the underwater ones. They got a whole. So what the United States is now attacking is not actually diminishing Iran's military capability. Those underground missile cities and storage facilities. Again, I don't think the West has a clue how many missiles, particularly advanced missiles, Iran has. And I believe that they are continuing to manufacture those. I don't know how long it takes them to produce different components, but it looks like they've been able to do that. So there is no immediate, it's not like they're going to run out of missiles next week.
Larry, you mentioned the attack on Dimona and Iraq as well. two cities were hit by Iranian ballistic missiles, hypersonic missiles.
Right,
And it seems that they have sent just a single hypersonic missile to Dimona. It shows that they were somehow confident that the missile going to get the target. They're going to hit the target.
Right.
What is the understanding? Because Israelis, when you look at the Israeli media, they're somehow saying that they're investigating the case to understand what has happened. Why did they fail to intercept the missile?
Huh.
But is Israel, if Dimona can get hit by Iranian missile, so nobody has any sort of protection considering air defenses?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, the air defense systems don't work. They've got limited capability. And you've had Ted Postel on talking about this extensively, and he's got all the facts and figures. But, you know, all you got to do is watch the video, you know, that the one that did come out of Dimona. It was, you saw 3 or 4 air defense missiles go up, and boom, the other one, the hypersonic, just blew through them. You know, this, once in a while they get lucky, but again, there is a supply problem for particularly with Patriot and THAAD missiles. You know, I've talked about that before. There was not an unlimited inventory, and you know, frankly, a significant amount they've been depleted by what was sent to Ukraine and what was used up in the 12-day war last June. And now the intensity of, we're going to day 25. So we're coming up on, you know, in about 8 hours, it'll be, you know, past midnight in Iran, and start of day 25. And Iran keeps, you know, they're like clockwork. They're launching missile strike after missile strike at targets in Israel and in the Persian Gulf.
Larry, what do you make of, you know, what has happened last night? The United States has moved its soldiers from Iraq to Jordan. And before that, we've learned that other NATO countries are withdrawing their troops from Iraq. What is happening? Is it something, you know, connected to what's going to happen in the near future, a confrontation between Iran and the United States on the ground, or is it something different and doesn't have anything to do with that?
Well, no, I mean, it's one more sign that the United States doesn't have control of the situation. They had to pull their personnel out of Iraq because otherwise they're going to be, we don't know how many have been killed or wounded. I've seen some videos online. I don't know if these are AI or if they're real, but one was out of Qatar, and it showed a strike with personnel in a courtyard. So we really don't know how many U.S. troops have been killed and or wounded. But yeah, they had to pull them out. It's not sustainable. The U.S. does not have enough military personnel to protect and defeat the Iranian supported groups that are attacking them. So, you know, finally, you know, 23 years after the invasion by the United States of Iraq, the U.S. is being driven out. I mean, it's another ultimate victory for Iran.
Is Iran planning for the monetization? You know, did they want to monetize control over the Strait of Hormuz?
Sure.
And how far do you see the United States gonna go against this sort of policy, and how successful can they be if they go against what Iran is trying to do in the Strait of Hormuz? Because so far we've learned from the Iranian officials that more than 20 countries are in contact with Iran to manage that, to pay just to pass, and without having any sort of difficulties.
Yeah, well, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
How do you see Donald Trump dealing with that?
Well, what's his leverage? Okay, the necessity of keeping cars running, keeping the factories running. These other countries are going to, they're going to follow the money. And so what this means is that the dollar supremacy is in trouble. It's just the economic in the international economic order is being reestablished. It's not. It's the Bretton Woods system is dead. Trump's trying to keep it alive, and but now Iran really has acquired some leverage, and the game is going to heat up. So if everybody, if you watch the Japan and